When we talk about K-pop, success is way more than just album sales, right? It's about influence. It's about who has the power to just completely dominate the online conversation. So, how do we actually measure that buzz? Well, today we're going to unpack the hard data behind the November brand reputation rankings and see who really truly owned the digital world. I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. In an industry that is just packed to the brim with superstars and these massive dedicated fandoms, how do you even begin to objectively measure who has the most influence? Is it just about who has the most followers on social media? Or is there a more scientific, data-driven way to track a star's digital footprint? That is the exact problem that these rankings are designed to solve. Okay, here's our game plan for breaking this all down. First up, we're going to get a handle on what modern fame even is and the key metric they use to measure it. Then, we'll take a peek under the hood at the science of influence to see how the numbers are actually calculated. After that, it's the main event, November's top contenders. From there, we're going to dissect the winner's score in Anatomy of a #OneIdol, and finally, we'll zoom out for the bigger picture to see what this all tells us about the K-pop landscape right now. So let's dive right into the most important concept. You've probably heard this term, the Brand Reputation Index, thrown around all the time, but what does it actually really mean? At its core, it's basically a data-driven report card for an idol's influence. An institute in Korea uses massive amounts of big data to analyze how people are talking, searching, and engaging with idols online. So this isn't some simple popularity poll, not at all. It's a really complex measurement of an idol's power to drive conversations, to get media attention, and to shape how people feel about them. It's like a snapshot of their digital power at a specific moment in time. Okay, so how do they actually come up with that final score? Well, it's definitely not just guesswork. It is a massive, and I mean massive, data crunching operation. Before we even get to who's on top, you gotta appreciate the sheer scale of the information being analyzed here, because that's what gives these rankings their weight. First, let's talk about the scope. The analysis for this month's ranking didn't just look at a few of the top stars. No, it covered a staggering 755 different boy group members. This is so important because it ensures the results aren't just skewed by looking at the most famous groups. It gives us a real look at trends happening across the entire industry. And from those 755 idols, the analysts gathered more than 67.6 million pieces of data. Just let that sink in for a second. Over 67 million. We're talking about every single online mention, every search, every media article, every community post, all of it fed into this giant algorithm. The scale is just incredible. And this isn't old, dusty data either. This entire mountain of information was collected over a very specific one-month window, from October 15th all the way to November 15th. This makes the index a super relevant, up-to-the-minute look at who was really capturing the public's attention during that exact time frame. All right, we've gone over the what and the how. Now for the part I know you've been waiting for. With all of that data crunched and analyzed, who actually made it to the top in November? It's time for the big reveal. Coming in at number 3 is an absolute living legend of the industry, Big Bang's G-Dragon. His staying power is just undeniable. The fact that he consistently lands at the top of these rankings just proves that true, authentic influence really does last. And in a very, very tight race for the top, taking the second spot is BTS's Jungkook. I mean, what can you say? He's a global superstar whose solo work just keeps making these huge waves. His position here just shows how much conversation and media attention he commands literally every single day. And finally, claiming that coveted number 1 spot for individual boy group brand reputation in November is BTS's Jimin. He managed to top an incredibly competitive field to get here. But the big question is, how exactly did he do it? Well, let's take a look at the data that pushed him to number 1. All right, now we get to the really fascinating part, dissecting the win. Let's break down the specific numbers that launched Jimin to the top spot and really get a feel for the anatomy of a number 1 idol. So here it is. Jimin's final brand reputation index for the month was 4,389,785. Now that's the big composite score that was generated from those tens of millions of data points. But this one number is actually made up of 4 very different and very important components. This chart really tells the whole story. So you've got 4 key parts. First, there's the participation and media indexes.
Think of these as direct consumer engagement and how much he's being covered in the news. And for Jimin, both of those are really solid. But the real story, the reason he's number one, is in the other two. The communication index measures all the buzz and the general chatter around him. And then you have the community index. Look at that, it's by far the biggest slice of the pie. This measures how positively and how widely he's being discussed in online fan communities. And that, right there, tells us that his number one rank wasn't just driven by media hype. It was overwhelmingly powered by intense, positive conversation happening at the grassroots fan level. So we've put the winner under the microscope, but the view from the top is always more than just one person, right? To really understand the current landscape of influence, we need to zoom out and see who else is sharing that elite space.
And yeah, the rest of the top 10 is just as revealing. It's no surprise that BTS is still a force of nature, with Jin and V sitting right there at numbers 4 and 5. But look at this incredible mix. You have seasoned veterans like SHINee's Minho, which just goes to show that legacy and staying active builds huge brand power. You've got artists with really successful solo careers after their group activities, like Minhyun and Jihoon. And then, and this is super interesting, at number 9, you have Wonbin from the rookie group Rise, already breaking into this top tier. This list isn't just a simple popularity contest. It's a snapshot of a super dynamic industry where legendary icons, current global superstars, and exciting new rookies are all competing for our attention.
And that really brings us to our final thought. Seeing fame broken down like this into millions of data points in these index scores, it's a pretty powerful thing. It shows us exactly who is driving the conversation right now. But it also makes you wonder, as we get better and better at measuring influence with data, how does that change how we think about what it means to be a star? Is it about the art, the connection with fans, or is it about the algorithm? Maybe, as this data suggests, it's actually about the complex, fascinating place where all three of those things meet.